From the great halls of their house, there are assembled three who hope to one day be the world's greatest driving heroes. Created from the cosmic legends of the universe comes our team captain, the Vision, Bill Fisher, and their soon-to-be Wonder Woman, Vicky Fisher, and our Captain Marvel and head flight trainee, Jennifer Scripchuk. Their mission: to fight injustice, share what is right and wrong, to get you out of your house and come out racing with them and serve all mankind. They are the Garage Heroes in Training Team.
Dominating with Dawson.
All right, Ben, I look out my window and, well, today it's actually snowing, so why is it April? But it's
Is it really?
Yeah, it really is.
Gosh, we had piles of hail around my plant on Thursday. It's crazy.
I know. Well, it's entertaining. It's almost Easter, and we have snow. But whatever. We have not raced. Well, I would say we have not raced in the snow, but we did once. But let's go with the more common thing: racing in the rain. I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not going to race because it's raining," or "Racing in the rain sucks." I personally kind of like it. What's your thoughts on racing in the rain?
I think it is the finest gift to man. I love racing in the rain. It's my favorite thing.
So did you hear the segment with Ross where he was saying that if he had his magical powers, every racetrack would have sprinklers 24/7?
I love that. I thought that was great. I was like, fire up the sprinklers. Fire them up on one half of the track and not the other, and let's race.
Let's challenge you.
Yeah, I love racing in the rain, but it's hard work. It's hard work, and you have to really want to do it. There are plenty of racers whose rain setup is 4 jack stands in the Miller Lite,
Yeah, that's not me. I mean,
but I'll tell you,
it's awesome.
I'll tell you. I mean, the mindset from some of those guys, like let's put ourselves in the mindset of a nationally competitive spec Miata racer, and you're at a regional event. You're just trying to run enough regional events to qualify for a national event, so you can qualify for the major. So you know what I mean. So you're running what in your mind is a fairly low level event with the same spec Miata that you hope to win the runoffs with.
Right.
So I'm at a regional event where some Yabo is probably going to knock me out from mid-pack in the first lap. If it's a rain racing, I might just save. Because also, after I win the runoffs with that spec Miata, I'm going to sell it to some other Yabo for $50,000, and then I'm going to move up to the next class or whatever. So there's a lot of calculations that go into some people's mind when they're like, I'm going to skip this rain race. But I'm never.
I think a lot of people skip it because it's wet.
Sure, but the wet just in general. So in that Miata racer's mind, the wet just increases risk for him in his car. He's thinking toward the end of the year. But there's some folks who are just like, this is no fun. I don't want to do it, or I'm scared. Like, I mean,
right?
It's a whole different prospect to go from I'm comfortable slinging my car around as fast as I can do it dry. I've got that down. I do that. It's like 9 out of 10 of the times I show up at the track, that's what I'm doing, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like I got that down pretty good, but the prospect of doing it when everything's slippery and wet, for some folks, is just like, cannot do it, can't get to it.
So I guess it's your approach, right? Because in my mind, if I'm driving a car at or close to the limit, that's where I have fun. I don't need to be doing 300 miles an hour. I don't need to be doing 100 miles an hour. I can be having a great time at 20 miles an hour. And
totally, if that's what we're racing, I'm doing it. I'm right there with you.
And the added benefit, at least to me, is when I have a race in the rain, I know that my brakes last longer, my tires last longer, everything the wear rate seems to go down. So I'm getting cheaper track time at a limit that's granted lower than it should be for a racetrack, but it's still a blast.
When I see rain clouds, the first thing that comes out is not my calculator bill. The first thing that comes to my mind, I appreciate what you're saying. That I'm gonna be able to run these tires for another race because I'm not gonna use them that much, and that definitely is a concern. But no, when I see the rain's coming, I know that our team goes from being maybe top third. I might be going up to being top 5 of the whole race because we're more competitive when it rains because it's a big equalizer.
Yeah, it pulls the team performance out, and
my team has been to the dyno a shocking total of 0 times.
I'm right there with you. I'm tied.
Don't go to the dyno. It'll just mess you up. You'll tune your engine until it blows pistons out the hood. But the guys that we race against, the people who put in a whole lot of effort, they're people who are more successful than we are. and it's largely due to the fact that we just throw the car together, like, hey, let's do this March race, and we just throw it together, and it's like we've raced for a couple times with a broken motor out. Like I say that to say we're pretty good as far as driving, but our prep level, we're all just busy. We just throw the car together. But there are guys in the field who are a few seconds faster than us, and it's because they go to the dynos, because they check over the car and make sure they don't have broken motor mounts, or make sure their rear brakes are working. We raced for a little while. We're not sure how long we raced, but the rear brakes that weren't doing anything. So I say all that to say, a little rain brings those guys who go to the dyno, those guys who check everything a little closer, it brings them down to my level. It brings them down to me a little bit. So I see rain coming out. I get excited because it's like our team suddenly took a Viagra as far as where we're going to end up in the standings. So we're super into the rain.
So does your little blue pill, does that affect your racing line?
Yeah. I mean, you're just going to kind of hot around, and it's corner dependent, it's track dependent. Anybody who's going to race lemons at CMP, let me tell you a little trick. Like when it's wet at CMP, which it likely is all the time. Going into the last turn, it's a really, maybe the sharpest turn on the track, second sharpest turn, but it's a really sharp right-hander. And if it's wet, you just pull off one lane to the right, so you're all the way to the left braking usually because it's a right turn. So you pull over one lane over from the normal racing line. Right. The guy on the normal racing line is going to go slide by, and you'll have really great grip. So sometimes you don't have good grip in a braking zone like where you normally brake and it's wet. Try moving a lane over. And there's no prescription that's going to work for every single corner, every single track in the wet. You'll hear a lot of people. The same people who are worried about racing in the rain want to generalize the experience. They want to say, here's the racing line. The old coots at the track will be like, hey, here's the racing line. If it's raining, here's what you're going to do every corner. And they're going to apply some sort of generalized formula, which is just going to make you slow. Right. So if somebody comes talking to you about the rain line, push them down, walk away from them because they're just going to slow you down. The ideal way of driving the rain is just to be ready to fight for the maximum amount of grip at every corner, every different lap. So I'm gonna hit turn one. This time I had this much grip. Next time around, I'm ready for there to be a different amount of grip. If you're ready to fight for how much grip you can get at that corner every single time, every single corner of the track, you have to be pretty active and you have to be willing to react and fight for something that was different the last time you saw it. So if you're down for all that, you're gonna have a great time there. If all that is like that's too far out of my comfort zone, I don't think that sounds exciting. You're probably not going to have that much fun in the rain. But for me, I'm just like, it's a bonanza of fun.
So the only two generalities that I kind of think may apply, and then you can say if you agree or disagree.
Let's hit them.
Is if the line on the track that you're thinking about doing looks shiny, it's not a good plan. And if the line on the track where you're thinking about going looks like a rainbow, it's really not a good plan. Because if there's oil or something on the water,
totally. If it looks like the water out behind your boat, skip it. Don't ride that.
That's not a good plan.
As far as shiny, I've never thought about it that much. I don't really, but I'm not this. There's a lot of drivers who are like, and I'm not saying bad drivers. I'm saying there are plenty of good drivers who use visual references better than I do. Like, oh yeah, I ran up to that second seam in the concrete section of that turn. I'm like, wow, I don't know what you're talking about. So that may be a real thing, but I'm just not a visual like that. For me, the kind of the ways that I generalize the rain, like it's to me, it's fairly easy to drive a track once it's saturated. It's still going to be changing, but it's not going to be changing that much, and you know what you got. To me the real danger zone with wet is either a track that's getting wet. A drying track isn't that bad because you've been on it. And you sort of have a reference for it, so you know that okay, this turn's getting drier and drier. But as it's getting wetter and wetter, that's where you kind of. I'm more prone to having like sudden losses of grip where I was like, I thought I had this much and suddenly it's getting wetter and it's like, your butt dyno's talking to you the whole time. You're always trying to catch little slides, but in general, when you're racing in the rain, you're not going to be able to do everything that you could in the dry. You're going to have a smaller percentage of braking capacity. You're going to have a smaller amount of actual turning angle that you get when you turn the wheel. So you're not going to be able to just whip the wheel out like you can in the dry. So you're going to be ready for a lot more tire slippage.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like about a drying track is if you're trying to pass, because the person that you're trying to pass is usually going to be on the dry line. Now you're trying to pass them, and you're going to a wet line. So
it makes the pass tougher. In the dry you would just be able to whip out and get it done. But also in the dry, is that a car you would have been anywhere close to? See, maybe not. Just got to dominate the rain. The rain is your chance to dominate. Anybody listening to this, anybody who hears this, rain is your time to shine. Get on that shiny line.
Shiny, no shiny.
No, I think racing in the rain is so much fun. Yeah,
it is.
You just got to fight. Just got to get out there, be ready to fight the car, be ready to fight the track. People always say stay off the painted surfaces. That makes a lot of sense. The first time I drove Watkins Glen. It was Friday practice was in the wet.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily it was like a track day and also race cars out there. So I was able to jump in some dude's Porsche and ride around. He goes, hey, you got to watch out for this painted yellow line. There was a line that lets people go in the pit. So it was a line that denotes this is the pit lane entry.
Yeah.
So you also cross that. You cross that as you turn 11, I think.
Yep.
As your next thing, you cross that. And he goes, yeah, you really got to watch out. I was like, all right, old man. And then I got out in our race car, which was a Miata with a third of the power this guy's 911 had, and I'm out there and like just treading lightly the first lap, just trying to kind of feel out the track. Just the first time in a Miata that might have had 108 horsepower, I nearly lost it coming across that painted line. But it's a mix. You just have to feel every single thing out. So in that case, that was a really, really dangerous painted surface. But for me, like the curbs at CMP, the times I've raced there in the rain. Everybody says to stay off the painted surfaces, but sometimes if the car's not turning well enough for me, I'll go ahead and arc it toward those painted surfaces just to get the painted surfaces to rotate the car for me. So use with caution, but feel everything out. I mean, you can use anything to your advantage in the rain. It might even be a painted surface if the car's pushing and not turning as fast, but you still want to go faster through the corner. Try something to help rotate it better.
And just be ready.
Yeah, just be ready. Anything you try in the rain is likely going to kick the car out. So always be ready to catch the car or just deal with a negative result from some janky stuff you tried.
Yeah. Any tire changes or setup changes you do when you see rain?
I would say only if you think it's going to be raining for most of the day, because a lot of the stuff you would change to set up for the rain would be really detrimental in the dry. So things that you can try if you think it's going to be wet all day. I would probably drop a few pounds of pressure out of the tires because you're likely that will help you get more grip, and you're not going to be worried about how much heat you're getting in the tire pressure at that point. You just kind of drive around in the rain. So I would do things to soften the car. So a few pounds of pressure out of the front and rear. Probably I would maybe look at unhooking the sway bars. That's something that people do a lot. I'm not sure if our team has ever done it in the rain, but people do it.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. So we talked about tires, sway bars. If you're able to adjust your suspension, if you have adjustable shocks and stuff like that, it's probably smart to set into the softest settings.
A little softer, yeah.
Yeah. What else would we change? I guess that's about all I could do.
What about the one thing that everybody always worries about, the visibility? Your visibility goes down. Is there any tricks of the trade for seeing a little better? Do you change the color of your visor? Do you put something on your windshield? There
are people who put dish soap or shaving cream on the inside of their windshield to keep it from fogging up. I'm not sure how effective that is. We've used a Rain-X anti-fog before, but if you have good airflow through the car, hopefully that's not a huge deal. I raced a Supra at A&P, and luckily I was able to reach the windshield with my glove, but the owner had put like a blower, a dryer hose that he thought was blowing to the right point in the windshield, but actually was blowing right to the middle. So it wasn't doing anything to help me see. So every lap there's, A&P's a really busy track, but every lap there's kind of one section where I had just enough time to reach up and wipe, maybe a 10-inch section where I could see through. So that was a race where I couldn't see anything. It was also the one where I ended up slapping the car into a wall. So it's dangerous not being able to see it. It wasn't why I wrecked the car, but it was scary. It kind of stinks to not be able to see. I was having to take my hand off the wheel in the middle of a wet race with a ton of cars just to wipe the windshield. So obviously that's not the best, safest solution. So, there are definitely things to test and try. That Rain-X stuff has worked pretty well for us. It's a specific Rain-X anti-fog.
Yep, the black one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a diver, like a scuba diver trick, is where you just you do a little spit inside your mask. Just do that inside your whole windshield. Just take the time, get the spit going. Take the time, do your whole windshield with your spit. Also, the car's probably going to smell like whatever you were eating or drinking that day forever. So that's going to be cool for everybody that drives it. So I recommend a full coating of your saliva on the
windshield. Especially after nachos for dinner the night before.
Breaking news right here on Garage Heroes in Training. Saliva windshield.
Okay, if you don't want to go with Ben's slobber knocker kind of approach, we have a the Three Pedal Mafia came up with using Barbasol, and we have a Barbasol regime that we can use for the inside to keep the fog down. And then we actually have another page where we go into a window cleaning preparation inside and outside, and either one of those will take fog away. So,
how about that? That sounds good.
We're actually useful sometimes. Who knew?
So you're saying Barbasol shaving cream, right?
Barbasol shaving cream. If you're in
What's the other thing?
we have a way of cleaning the windows on the inside and outside, and then there is no fog. So.
But you're saying it's proprietary and you don't want to share it with other racers?
No. I'm saying it's at GarageHeroesandTraining.com.
Okay, cool. Good deal. Go look there for that method.
Yeah, those guys every now and then they know something.
Yeah.
Figure we went to school long enough, I can figure out my surface chemistry. I'll be okay.
Yeah, if anybody should, it should be Bill Fisher. Fisher Scientific over here.
I don't know about that. Well, I got to make up for my driving somewhere. So if I could see, I can always do better than somebody who can't see. So
definitely, vision is one of the most important safety aspects of what we do, right?
Yep. And as noted in the 2018 Thompson video at the end for lemons, when you can't see, the correct approach is not to then stop, say, I can't see, put the car into gear, and then continue driving. So it was quite funny. All right, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dominating with Dawson.
Okay, Ben, I'm at the track, and I keep hearing people talking about the line. I hear people talking about the racing line. I hear people talking about the school line. I hear people talking about the Porsche line. I hear people making jokes about the Mustang line. What are these lines? Because there's no lines on the road. And when do you diverge from a racing line?
Well, first of all, let's say this to the Mustang brethren. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do the Mustang joke. Love y'all.
It was so easy.
No, I mean, the line is the fastest way for you to get your car around the track, for you to get you and your car around the track. So part of it has to do with what you're comfortable with, in general. So the line's going to be different for somebody who's first day at the track than Michael Schumacher would drive the track. So, but in general, the line is going to be dependent on you and their car and the track, the condition of the track, whether it's wet or dry. So a lot of things dictate how you get your car around the track. But ideally, the line is the fastest way you could get your car around the track in the dry. Is what people are thinking of when they think of the line.
Okay, so there's the geometrical line where you kind of maximize the radius so you can go as fast. But then there's the racing line, which is usually different.
Yeah.
How or why would they be different?
It's weird. There's one at VIR. There's a little section called Snake, and if you took the perfectly geometrical line through there, which you would think would work, you'll get off and spin. I only know that because I had a student who did it and ended up spinning into the tire wall. But it's one where you have to run what feels like an unnaturally late apex to get turned in for that whole section, and if you don't do it, you'll get out of the dirty stuff. So I don't know what it's a function of, but it's a place where you don't run the geometrical line. You have to kind of run this VIR magic, but it works every time. And if you screw it up, you're in big trouble.
So I think part of it is looking at a track map, you can kind of figure out what your line is, but sometimes there's a change in grip or a change in camber.
It might be off camber. It might be a place where the curving is so evil that you're just going to avoid it and kind of take a different way through there or something like that.
Right.
And sometimes what might appear to be what you think you're going to be doing looking at a track map is actually going to be a straight line because you realize that, it's a place where the curves are so friendly. You're going to really run a lot straighter than what the track map appears to be. Does that make sense?
Yep. I can see that. And then the racing line differs from the geometric line sometimes because you're trying to maximize your straightaway time or time at highest speed, and you're willing to give up a little bit of distance on a slower part to maximize a lot of distance on a faster part. So
you're totally right. We were talking about Oak Tree, for example, at VIR, and how that's kind of that oblique angle. You just want to throw the car any which way in there, as long as you get down to the point where you can get rotated and back on the throttle across the apex, so you give yourself some more straightaway. So yeah, you're definitely not running what would make the most sense to a computer through there.
Well, I'm thinking that all the stories that we talk about, you keep mentioning VIR, so I need to get there so I can know what the hell you're talking about.
Oh yeah, all right. I'm always talking about it because it's a track I've been driving since 2005, and it's just always my home reference point.
Oh no, it's fine. It's been on the list. It's just,
You got to get down there. It's a track that teaches me something new every lap. I'm so lucky to have it an hour from my house.
Oh, we'll have to meet there, and then you can make fun of my driving.
All right.
Very well, sir. Thank you.
Dominating with Dawson.
All right, welcome back, Ben. We've got a lot of people who are trying to drive as well as they can, and they may be relatively new. And one of the things that we were talking about before was, maybe they could watch some things online. And not only is it important to watch on YouTube or wherever you see it, somebody who's in a similar type of car than you, but it could be even more useful if you can find somebody in a similar type of car that also drives in a similar way.
Sure.
So how do you think the best way to go about being a YouTube stalker is? Do you think there's some people we could send them to these are probably professionals and in much better cars than we drive typically? Or how would you characterize like a few different types of drivers so somebody could be on the lookout for, that sounds like me?
Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's important to find somebody who's driving something that's representative of what your effort's going to be. So similar car, something that's going to, and maybe the track you're trying to learn. So target your search to something that's going to benefit you and help you find time quicker on the track. Anything you can do before you show up to the racetrack, it's going to make you faster and have a better time with the track. If you didn't do your homework and watch a ton of video and you show up cold somewhere to learn something, it's going to take you more time to get up to speed and more time to start having as much fun as you could possibly have. So learning some video is part of doing your homework and part of just getting faster in general when you're away from the track, right?
Yep, absolutely. So suppose you're going into a race and you're doing a race this weekend and it's at a track that's relatively new to you. Maybe you've been there once or twice, but you just want to go do it. And you're driving a low power car, but it turns really well.
Right.
I'm thinking you're going to go look at Spec Miata races, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, also think about this too. I think we probably have some Lemons ears on this thing. And if I was going to go drive a Lemons race, when I moved back from California in 2014, I had done a track day or two at CMP, but I wanted to go run the Lemons race there. I watched a little bit of low power club racing video, like some Spec E30, Spec Miata stuff, just to see similar speeds to what I was going to be doing, a little Honda I was going to drive. But I also went and watched some Lemons racing there too, just to sort of see what Lemons traffic flow from recent years was like. I wouldn't go watch a Lemons any race video from 2007 because there's a whole different track configuration and stuff like that. But try to find some recent video of the series you're going to run with too, even if it's not going to be from a car that's like yours, just so you can maybe see what traffic in that region is like. I can tell you for sure, 4 or 5 years ago, Chump car back in the day out on the West Coast was 100% different than it was on the East Coast because I drove both in 1 year. I was like, oh my gosh, it was like some crazy Dukes of Hazzard stuff on the East Coast, and West Coast was some of the closest, cleanest racing I'd ever done. So just as an example. So I think it's important to find a representative video of the series and find something that's like the car you're going to drive. For me, I've always considered myself to be a momentum car person, so I've always used videos like Spec Miata or Spec E30 are usually pretty representative of how I'm going to attack a car in course.
Okay. And so if you're doing that, you're going to do a low power momentum car. You can do the Spec E30, maybe even Spec E36, Miata, Spec Miata, whatever the flavors are. Do some lemon scouting. You might be able to see some teams and cars that you'll see when you're out at the track. Sure. What if you're going in something a little more throaty, a little more V8, a little more smash and dash kind of guy? Is there some place they should be looking?
Yeah, so yeah, if you're going to go race a car with some power, it's likely going to take a different approach. Turn one at VIR is a great example. I know I keep hitting you with VIR examples, but turn one at VIR is one where if you're driving a momentum car, you want to run in, turn in hard, square it off, and then a rim right around the outside exit of the turn to build momentum. If you're in a power car like a Mustang or something like that with a bunch of power, you can diamond that turn. So you can come in with a shallower turn in and hit a sharper turn point way out there to the edge of the track, and then you just turn around and just stomp on the gas. And since you have some power, you don't have to worry about spooling up momentum on the exit. So that's a turn where you can have two different different approaches with a very effective results. Because if you tried the momentum line with a horsepower car, it wouldn't make a lot of sense. If you try to do the diamond line with the Miata, you just kind of bog down because you turn so sharp you lost all your momentum. So does that make sense?
Yeah, your minimum's too low for the Miata.
Right. So you would be, if in that case, if I was going to get a chance to drive a higher powered car, I would probably go watch some Camaro Mustang Challenge NASA videos. That's a class in NASA there. They also have American Iron. So they're just some kind of ground powered V8 series that, NASA, SCCA has a sedan, I think, or something like that. But they've got, I think it's a sedan is the big power car. GT1, obviously. If you're talking about GT1 cars, it's a whole different thing. But you can go find some big stuff. And also, if you want to be a race watching video ninja, go look at your local NASA or SCCA page. If you want to watch some good race car drivers get after it for whatever you're trying to learn, go to that region's website, look up the results, go find that guy in his video, go find that guy on YouTube who you want to watch, go find the guy who wins every time. Right. Go watch what he's doing, and that's going to be the most effective use of your time. If you're trying to find something that correlates to whatever you're going to do. If it's like I said, if you're racing a Kia Spectra and Lemons, that's probably not going to be much use to you. But yeah, I mean, it's just tailor your video search for whatever you're going to do. Join iRacing, learn it, do a sim or something like that. It's even more effective. But certainly, video can help you a whole lot as far as showing up and knowing what you're doing, where the track is going.
What about a front wheel drive? Would they just go watch like Honda Challenge?
Honda Challenge, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You got Honda Challenge, and I don't know what else, but there's plenty of front wheel drive stuff you can find too. I just don't. It's just not what I'm tuned into. But I'm sure there's plenty of representative front wheel drive racing that would be a great thing to look at. Certainly Honda Challenge. Okay,
so we got track. Try to match a track as best you can. Try to match the type of car as best you can. What if somebody's just saying, I want to go see how the pros do it? Is there like the stereotypical smooth guy that they should go look for? Is there a stereotypical aggressive guy they should go look for? And how many driving styles? Is there people to go play with and go stalk on?
I'm trying to think. I don't really go hunting for pro videos enough to know who's what. I'll tell you this though. I think we're gonna talk about this at some point. But if you want to try to find something not to do, there are a couple of pro guys who you watch and you're like, oh, this guy's an alien. Like we talked about Senna, right?
Oh yeah.
Bill and I can't watch Senna in this car. I'm gonna go make that work for me right now. You might be able to try to emulate.
I'm doing that. Yep.
Yeah, next time. I'm gonna knock that out right now. I mean, you might be able to emulate parts of that approach, but if you watch a guy like that, go like, I'm gonna go berserk and drive like that today. You're gonna go flying off the track and wreck your track.
I couldn't even do it in iRacing. I wouldn't even risk my car, and it's fake.
But since we're here talking about stuff that's fantasy video to go watch, so if you want to do do as I say, not as you see me doing on the racetrack, there's a great one. Do you know who Lee Keen is? Have you ever heard that name before?
I do. He's on Proving Ground with one of our former guests. Yeah, he's on
Proving Grounds, and he's a guy who's had a great pro career. He's raced with plenty of pro Porsche teams and stuff like that. But I think it was around the time when the Nissan GTR first came out. There's a video of him wearing it looks like one of those Smokey the Bandit, like a silky black jacket. And he's got it looks like a motorcycle helmet or something. He's not dressed like he's racing a car. He's just dressed like a dude who just jumped in a GTR to drive it.
Now we know why you're watching this.
There's a video of him just yanking that GTR around VR like he does not care whether the car lives, whether he lives, and he just is the craziest thing. And you watch it like, I'm gonna go do that. You're gonna die. That guy is great. So he's a great guy to go watch. Go watch Lee Keen. It's LEHKEEN. Lee Keen. That guy's videos are fantastic. There's one of him at Le Mans. Have you ever seen that one? Him in the wet at Le Mans?
No.
There's a Lee Keen video called Rain Dance. I think it's what it's called. And it's just him driving in the rain at night at Le Mans. And it's just all elbows the whole time. It's so much fun. But you and I are not going to be able to go do what that guy does on track. So yeah, there's some dangerous stuff to watch if you're the type of person who sees something like, I can do it. Calm down. You can't.
But I'm a visual learner.
Yeah. Good luck.
And for those of you at home, Lee Keen is a very big boy. He's
a tall fella.
He is not shy on height.
So. Yeah, there was that. They brought that 3-rotor Mazda that won Le Mans. One of the Proving Grounds I watched.
Yeah, he couldn't fit.
He was like, what a letdown.
He got his shot and he didn't get to go. So he was less than happy.
Yeah, but yes, so for 100%, use video, use any tools that you can to shorten your learning curve once you're at the track. Because when you're at the track, you are shelling out those dollars. Bop, 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 bop.
Pretty quick too.
Make it a good time. Make the best use of your time if that's what's up. Also, some people might be like, hey, my fun is just showing up and seeing what's up. If that's part of your fun, don't do too much homework. Just show up and make it fun. But if you're competitive, do every bit of stuff you can to be ready by the time you get there.
It's almost like if you can't, in my mind, if you can't afford the time to do the homework, you shouldn't go.
Unless your fetish is not doing the homework.
Yeah. Well, I'm not talking about you, Ben. I'm talking about our listeners who are doing what they should do.
Your dedicated listeners should do that. No, but I mean, I know that I always talk about liking to drive a track brand new on the green. But at that point, when I get there, I have done iRacing video homework. I don't skimp on that. I love driving a brand new track in the steepest circumstances, but I've done homework before I show up.
And you are not that early in your learning curve either. So.
Right.
Yeah. So if you were to, do you know of anybody who somebody could look at or look to that is like the prototypical technical driver? I've got one guy in my head.
Tell me who you're thinking about.
Not my favorite, but Probst. If you look at Prost,
Randy Probst?
No, Alain Prost.
Oh, Prost. Sorry.
Yeah, he used to race against Senna.
Oh, yeah, no, the professor.
Yeah, so he would be somebody I would say that, he's gonna.
Yeah.
If you look at 2 laps, they've got a few videos out there with him versus Senna at the same time, same car, and you look at the in-car camera, what Senna's doing versus what Alain is doing.
Worlds apart.
Way far apart.
Yeah.
So.
But I mean, I never watch. It's interesting to watch those guys approach, but what they're doing and the speeds, they're not really that relative to what I'm trying to learn. So I don't think in terms of like watching pros to learn how to drive myself. They're good ideals. Those guys will teach you the best ideals. Like you're never pausing. You're never pausing between throttle and brake. Those are the kind of things you can learn. Just generic ideals of track driving. There's no lag time between throttle and brake. Those sort of things are things you can pick up in a rapid succession watching a Formula One driver. But it's a good person to go watch. That I misunderstood when you said it is a guy named Randy Pobst. P-O-B-S-T. He's a great guy to watch. Doesn't make mistakes. He's had a pro career, still big in automotive media, I think. So and he gets to drive all kind of stuff. So there's a video of Randy Pobst driving something like you're going to drive. Type in Randy Pobst Miata. Type in Randy Pobst E36. Type in Randy Pobst Jaguar. There's something out there with him driving it that's going to give you an idea of how you might approach it with your car. So he's a great guy to look for because he's all over the place too. So easy to find. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would. And if anybody has the Motor Trend app or even some of them are on YouTube, the head-to-head videos. They used to be Jason Camisa and Johnny Lieberman, and now it's Jethro and Johnny Lieberman. Although rumors they handle it. Well, Randy used to do all the track videos, so you could see all the cars, and you could see.
I think Randy does the actual testing and stuff.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, so you see those. Those are great videos to watch too, and I'm sure there's plenty of stuff because I don't know. I never understand what the arrangement is. I think it's a pay thing, maybe with Lucky Dog, but if Randy is at the track and you have a car and say, hey, will you drive our car? He'll go drive your car. So there are plenty of teams who have had him just go drive their car, and that footage is out there. So, teams have just said, hey, Randy, can you take a stand in our car? You're pointing at yourself right now. So, yeah, so it's out there. There's plenty of video of this guy who's a pro who doesn't make mistakes driving a car just like you want to drive. So he's a great one to look at as far as a technical guy who's not screwing up and not real splashy or crazy.
Yep. So we got to find out exactly how far away from the curve we were. And the answer for those at home, it's quite far.
I think I drove a Lemon's car faster than he did one time.
We have not. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Dominating with Dawson.
All right, Ben. I keep hearing people complaining. You got a bunch of people coming in and they're dive bombing me. They're just jamming me in the turn. I keep hearing about this. I don't see any Japanese zeros coming in trying to hit me. I don't see anybody dropping any bombs, and I haven't seen the track blow up. What are they talking about?
What they're talking about when they say dive bombing is somebody's complaining that they got an inside pass, like they were going into a braking zone, turning in, maybe even right to the point where they thought they needed to start turning in. and then they found a car on the inside of them trying to make a kind of a late pass, or what they perceive to be a late pass. What do you think, Vicky?
That's pretty much what happened to me when I had my accident on Laguna Seca.
What happened? Where was it?
It was in turn 1.
2.
Was it turn 2?
Yeah, turn 1 is just that little.
Right, because it almost has like a double apex in it.
Yeah.
But as I was lining up for the first one, I was on the inside, concentrating on the car to my right when somebody came in up on my left.
Yeah.
So now we were going into the turn 3 wide, and that's when I lost it. And that's when I end up
in the wall.
At the end of that mess, I ended up in the wall.
Ouch. Yeah, I mean that's a super tough corner to get through all by yourself, much less 3 wide. That seems like a really whoever decided to be a plus one to make it 3 was not making a smart choice in an amateur endurance race, I would say. But you got to be ready, right? You got to be ready for that to happen.
Especially with our slow car. It's not like they had to wait much longer to get past us because we were probably bottom 10 in that race.
Right. You really don't even have enough power to get out of your own way, as old Blake said the other week. But yeah, so that's exactly what we're talking about as far as when a dive bomb style pass goes bad. That's the kind of the archetype of a dive bomb pass where somebody jumps in really late. You don't even know they're going to be in there, and they're just trying to squeeze their way to make a pass, and it goes really bad and somebody gets hit.
So it is. I'm sorry, only because dive bombing is that. I know there's no rules against it, but is that like poor driving etiquette, or is it just something you just need to keep an eye out for?
I mean, it's unsafe, so that's the epitome of poor driving etiquette. If you're going to endanger somebody else on track, but if you're kind of pulling a greedy pass, if you're trying to just think, I can get one more. If maybe you've been passing a couple of cars down the straightaway, and you're thinking, all right, I don't want to mess up my rhythm. I'm just kind of slinging in there and try to get one more pass. That's something that might work in a series where it's a small series, it's a sprint racing series, and all the guys you're racing with. So you see this lime green car coming from a mile back, like, here comes Fred. I know what he's going to do. He's going to try to jam it in there. So either you take evasive action, but you know what I mean? If it's a series or a group it's a tight group and you all know each other. There's an HPDE group that I run around with where like they have a red group. It's not really the instructors, it's not racers, but they all act like it's a race anyway. It's the same 10 guys with 600 horsepower Mustangs, but they all know how they all act on track. So they go out there and it's an HPD group and they just pass wherever the hell, and it's fun for them. But that's not the case with amateur endurance racing. It could be, 4 or 5 different drivers in each car. So even if you've memorized kind of how a car sort of behaves on track, it could be any number of drivers behaving differently in that car. So there are really too many variables to try to take a greedy pass that might not play out for you.
So one thing that you reminded me of when we were talking about this was we had Dion on a few episodes back, and he said that the best thing to do when passing somebody is to not be right next to them because they really can't see you, is to actually be as far away from them as you can.
Sure. Yeah, get in their mirror big time.
Right. But how would you say, what's the difference in your mind, at least, between a good pass just trying to take away the inside line and the apex versus a dive bomb? What would delineate the hey, I'm just going in there and and I'm a jerk?
I mean, like to me, if I would rather take a pass on the way out of a corner almost any time. Almost anything I'm driving, I can get it done. So I'm not prioritizing a turn on a pass on the way into a corner anytime in like endurance racing traffic. I just want to leave myself a way out of any time. So sometimes you might find yourself just through the way traffic is, the rhythm of traffic, you're going to find yourself passing somebody on the way in an endurance race. But I mean, I completely prioritize it by just trying to. You got to be in traffic for a long time to sort of get good at this skill. But just like a rafter, a good canoe person or a good rafter in a class 5 rapid can read the river, sort of tell where the rapids are headed and which way to kind of point it. You got to kind of start learn to do that in traffic as well, sort of just to read traffic and realize like this car is going slow enough that I can probably make this pass happen. But I'm also going to pay attention just to watch the way they're sort of behaving before I get to them. Like, does this person see me coming? Or are they sort of making accommodations or sort of driving like they can tell I'm there? A lot of times I go in there and just think, I don't think this person sees me, and I'll just kind of pull out and you just dive, you hit the brakes a little harder or something like that right on the way to the apex or something. Just give yourself a little bit of an out to get away from what you think is a window that was open that's closing. So you just have to be ready to kind of back out at any point. That's kind of my approach to passing on the inside.
So anytime
I'll take it on the outside.
So same pass could actually be dependent upon who you're passing, right?
Yeah, sure. It depends. It depends on how that car is going to do. I mean, if you're passing a Miata, but you're in a V8 Mustang, and you're trying to do it on the way into Oak Tree, the Miata is probably going to eat your lunch through most of that set of corners. But then by the time you hit the big straightaway on the backstretch, you know when the pass is going to happen. So there's no reason, if you're in that big V8 Mustang, there's no reason to rush and hassle the Mustang or hassle the Miata on the way into or through the corner, because you know you're just going to wear them out down the straightaway. So sometimes I think there's a little bit of timing and kind of building a little bit of slack in traffic can really help you time the passes the way you want to do it. But also, a dive bomb sometimes can be just so you're a slow driver on track and you realize that I think I need to be braking here, but somebody's just really just going to drive by you, driving up to the actual braking point where they need to stop. So sometimes it's a don't park here situation. Sometimes it's this person's actually endangering my situation on track.
So one of the things I don't know that I'm right, but one of the things that I thought was almost my responsibility as I got better at racing, better at car management, better at traffic management, was to learn the different cars and specifically the different people driving the different cars. There's certain people I can do stuff with, no problem. And then there's other people, it's like, just let them go. We'll get them later, because they're a calamity waiting to happen, and I'm not going to put myself in there.
Yeah, definitely. There's a group of guys who bring just rental cars to champ car events, and it's an ex-pro guy, and they're just known for making a bunch of contact. Like, this guy just apparently doesn't ever tell his renters what to do or what not to do, and they just run around hitting people all the time. So I think in our little area of Chump, people see these guys' cars coming, and they just kind of go, oh, it's not worth fighting that position, and just kind of let it go, because they know they're likely to end up replacing a fender or something like that. So yeah, you definitely kind of learn to read the field and know who you can have a bunch of fun with. I mean, there are some people who, you know, that they're going to spend a couple of laps passing you when they come by, or vice versa, and they're a lot of fun to race with. So, you know, that you can kind of relax. They've got a kind of whole squad of good drivers, and you know that you can have some fun with them. But in some cases, you'll see a fast car and you don't know the guys. You're just like, or you do know the guys. You're like, I'm just going to let these people go on. So that's my approach.
So dive bombing's generally taking the inside of a turn kind of late, and you don't want to be there.
Right. But the level of skill is so varied in amateur endurance racing. A lot of people just go, I got dive bomb. But really what they did was they braked way too early. They parked their car in the wrong spot. Somebody who was going faster just drove up past them, just went ahead and braked in the right spot. So you have to be sort of cognizant of the fact that with the varied skill level, you might not actually be getting dive bomb. You might just be getting passed in traffic, and it feels like you got dive bomb. So you kind of have to have a little bit of perspicacity about it.
Ooh, big words. We're going to end on that big word. I think we got all of it. All right. Thank you, sir.
Dominating with Dawson.
You get to drive lots of different cars, and sometimes you're starting in a car for the first time. Is there a way that you approach driving in a new car or learning about a new car to you?
Yeah, like I've been fortunate to get to drive a lot of different cars, and I always approach it pretty much the same way. My very first thing, sometimes, I mean, almost always, if you're driving a car that you haven't driven before, it's likely you're going to see it for the first time when you show up, if you're doing an arrive and drive or a rental with another team or something like that. So in my experience, I'm seeing the car for the first time at the place we're going to compete with it. So I like to take a good look around the car, look at the cage, I look at where everything's put together, make sure there's nothing that's going to be jagged or, you know, something that could hurt you sort of in the path of where your limbs or body are going to be. And I've rarely ever seen anything where I've been like, hey, let's correct this. But it's always worth a look. You want to assure yourself that if you're in that car and something bad happens, you're going to be okay. So that's the very first primary thing that I like to do when I drive a car that I haven't driven before. After that, I'd like to just sit down and make sure that I fit, the seating position is going to work, and that the belts are going to be the right length to go around my entire body. Also, to, you know, the shoulder straps are going to be the right length to go not just around my shoulder, but I'm also imagining a little bit of extra room for a head and neck restraint. So you sort of add a couple of inches on each shoulder to do that. So you're sort of just kind of mocking yourself up, making sure everything's sort of in a range that makes sense. Like the lap belts are going to be long enough, and that sort of thing. So it's also worth thinking about looking at your whole squad of guys and girls who are going to be driving, and make sure that the belts have an adjustability range that's going to fit everybody. You don't want to have your biggest person get in third stint in the middle of the race and like, oh crap, we can't get the belts around this person. So
we've never had that happen often.
That's something you want to learn. We had a person come to the race with us one time who we thought we were going to put in our Miata, And it turns out this guy didn't fit in the Miata, but luckily he came to test with us. We were luckily able to test both cars, so he came and tried that, and we found out he didn't fit in the Miata. It was better to find out on the test weekend than the race day, so we were able to try him out in RE30, and he was able to still race with us. So I say all that to say, make sure you fit, make sure it's a safe car. But once you got those sort of fundamentals knocked out, you want to sit down with the person who operates the car, whether it's the owner or the person who crews or works on it all the time. But you want to make sure that you understand what the temp gauge should look like in an optimal setting.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong, what's bad. Like when it gets to this point, tell me about it and come in. So you want to, at least for me, my very first thing I always want to know is, what does the temp gauge look like? What oil pressure, if they got an oil pressure gauge, what oil pressure should I be seeing?
Right.
With the engine under load. And don't be alarmed if you're watching an oil pressure gauge and you're under caution or you're just sort of idling to the pits and it's really low. Sometimes engines run really low, but you want to know what the oil pressure figure should be when the engine is under power, under load. So I'm looking for that. And I want to ask them, what switches I'm going to be operating. Is there a cool suit? Do I need to? Sometimes I'll have a separate fan switch. Does this fan need to be on while we're rolling around in the pits? So you just want. I always want to ask about everything I need to know to operate at kill switches. Show me where the fire pole is, and show me where the fire bottle nozzles are. I'm just looking for every safety thing and everything about operating the car. In one case, I went to drive a car and they said, "Hey, watch out! Our shifter doesn't have actual gates, so don't be slamming the gears." If I didn't know that, I might not have been aware of that. So sometimes the people operating the car will let you know if it's got any weird habits or any foibles. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like our truck, the race truck is a 5-speed, but 5th gear isn't to be used when racing because it will shear.
Right. So if somebody just got your car and didn't know that, that's excellent information for them to have. These are the main things that I'm thinking about when I'm just getting to know a car. I want to make sure that I can operate it safely and within the parameters that the team needs. So that they may tell you that, hey, if this and this happens, then you need to do this or you need to come in. So it's good to know all that stuff, and it's good to take the extra time to make sure that you can safely bail out of the car, so get yourself all the way belted in. Practice your egress or your getting out several times. It's kind of it may seem annoying to do, and you may have 30 other things to do on the car, but that's important. You got to do it.
Right.
Dominating with Dawson.
So we're out there racing our cars. We've got turns coming in. Some of them are intimidating because they're fast. Some of them are intimidating because they're slow.
Right.
Do you have a different way of handling each different type of turn?
Well, in some cases, when you're coming up on a fast turn that's equally fast on the way in as it is out, the main thing you just need to learn is how fast can I fly into this turn and come out. Like a turn that comes to mind when I think about that is I don't have the turn number. Sorry, Bill.
That's all right. Turn 12 at Atlanta, maybe?
Yeah, exactly. So turn 12 at Road Atlanta is a good one where you're building speed coming down the hill. I was thinking about one at CMP, but you brought up perfectly. So that one, turn 12 coming out towards start finish at Road Atlanta, you're building speed all the way down, and it's a fast turn all the way through. So that's one where you're really concentrating on just building up steam and making sure that you aren't going too fast at the apex, that you outrun the corner. So that's a case where it's a fast turn and your focus is building speed so that you can have the most top end speed built up before you break from turn 1. So that's a good example of that one. But a lot of times when you're coming up into coming through a fast turn that might have a decreasing radius, your focus might end up being that you're, want a really fast entry, but you want to make sure that you're gathered up for, with a decreasing radius, it's going to be very late apex around the backside of the corner. So your focus is going to be, bringing that speed down so that you have the correct exit speed, grabbing the right gear on the way out. Does that make sense? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. What about like a turn like the Octopus in New Jersey, where it's a never ending turn? Do you handle those a little different?
Well, right. I don't know anything about New Jersey. I've heard of that term, but it sounds like maybe also might be comparable to the carousel.
Carousel, yeah.
Sort of where you're working around. There's no defined apex, but you got to make a big radius to get around it. So in that case, some of those turns you sort of might, or sort of like turn 5 at Barbers, a little bit like that too. There are a few different places where you might conceivably apex and still come out pretty good. So in those cases, the consideration is going to be how fast is, how open, which also equals fast, is the exit going to be, and that sort of thing. And that's going to sort of prioritize where you're going to want to make the apex. So like with the carousel at CMP, I kind of come in on the outside and sort of make a diamond out of it. I do sort of an early first apex, and then I sort of diamond back out, and then I zero in on a later apex for an exit. So making that diamond lets me kind of cheat a little bit of speed out in the middle of that turn instead of just having to kind of follow one constant rate all the way through there. And if you're, and then these kind of corners are great for traffic because you want to just not know only one way to get through it. You want to kind of be aware of a few different places where you'll be sure-footed even if you're in traffic. So it's good to try a little bit of offline stuff in a corner like that, even when you're not in traffic, just to sort of see what you're going to be able to get away with when you're side by side through there and where you might be competitive, where somebody else might sort of back out of it.
Yeah, especially if you have a practice day. That would be a great thing to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Excellent. All right. Thank you, sir.
Dominating with Dawson.
All right, so Ben, glad to have you back again. We've got these people around the course that we're racing. They always are up in some type of booth, and they're always waving stuff at us. And sometimes it means attaboy, and sometimes it doesn't mean attaboy. Are they trying to convey some kind of information for us?
Yeah, so we're lucky in this thing that we do, driving and on track and racing, that we have corner workers and corner stations where there are usually at least one, maybe two in some busy corner areas. People watching action on the track and letting you know if there's a problem that you need to be aware of on track or with your own vehicle. Just letting you know what you need to be doing at that moment on the track. So the first flag that I would point out to everybody is, sorry, that's my dog. My dog's barking like crazy in the back.
He wants to tell you about a flag.
Yeah, she's about to get a black flag right now. So the most popular flag that everybody's aware of, even people that don't race, is the checkered flag, and that's letting you know that your time on the track, whether it's the end of a heat race or the end of qualifying or the end of the race altogether or the end of your HPDE session. A lot of times they'll wave that at you at an HPD or driving event at a different place than the start finish, just to let you know to come on in that lap. But that checkered flag tells you that your time on track is over and it's time to come on into the pit. Green flag means that you're ready to go. A lot of times in an endurance race, you may not see the green flag unless you're happen to be driving under start finish. A lot of times you understand that it's a green condition or a racing condition just as soon as the standing yellow flags disappear. But sometimes you'll see it. Sometimes you'll be racing and see a green flag. Sometimes it might happen when you're halfway around the track. But the green flag means it's a hot track and you're competing. The yellow flag is a caution flag. It just literally means be aware and be cautious that something has happened. Sometimes it might mean that there's somebody's just gone off the track or is coming back onto the track. Generally, a caution flag is just an advisory flag to let you know that be aware that something's happened. And typically they want you to at least slow down a little bit. If you're racing, they may not require or mandate a certain amount of slowdown, but you want to get it sort of more back under control than just full tilt boogie.
And then sometimes you'll see two yellow flags versus one yellow flag.
That's right. So the standing yellow is when they're just holding the flag out and they're just draping it out. That just letting you know there's a problem. So sometimes they'll start waving it, and if they're waving it sort of slowly, it just means, hey, this is a little more serious than and so pay extra attention. If you see a flagger in a flag station just out there waving that flag like crazy, that means roll out of the throttle, slow down, and get way under control, because the next thing around the next turn might be something that you'll have to confront or go off track to avoid or something like that. So the various levels of vigor that they're presenting the flag with is one thing. And then when you see two flags out, you'll see the corner station holding out two flags. A lot of times they'll hold the sticks together and drape them out side by side. Right. Or you see that at start finish, that means it's a full course caution and everybody's going to slow down while they repair the course or get the car off the track or whatever.
And then when the flagging event is done, they may or may not wave a green. If they just drop the flag, that's the same as green, right?
That's right. As soon as the yellow flags disappear from whatever corner station you can see, you're back to racing,
okay.
or back to spirited driving in a high performance environment.
Right.
So that's the yellow flag. We've also got the red flag, which means something serious enough has happened with the weather or the course or a vehicle on the course that you all just need to stop where you are, and we'll get this sorted out and we'll get things back moving. So when you see a red flag, it doesn't mean slam on the brakes right there. You might be in the middle of traffic and everybody's seeing this and absorbing it in their own time, which is not, everybody doesn't do it immediately. So the idea is you see a red flag, ease over to the right side of the track, let your car kind of come to a stop. You can use your brakes, but you don't need to slam on your brakes. Make sure that people behind you see, so you're waving your hand, letting people know you're about to stop. And the same thing applies for a yellow. Start waving your hand just right above your right shoulder, just so people behind you will see that there's an upset condition in the track. So that's just good track manners, and it keeps you from getting run over.
Yeah.
But yeah, so in a red flag, you're going to pull over to a stop. If ideally Corner workers will be patient with you. They don't want you to stop on a hill where you have to sit on your brakes because that's bad. It might bake your pad onto your rotor. So you want to try to roll to a place that's relatively flat to stop, and you want to be in view of a corner station because you're going to be watching the corner worker who's holding the red flag. Eventually, they're going to pull the red flag back, and they'll pull the red flag back and go to a yellow. They're not just going to pull it and have you just slam on the gas and start driving. It always kind of resolves to a yellow flag situation.
Yellow or black, right?
Yeah, sorry, yellow, but they might put a black flag out, which means everybody's just going to come to the pit while they figure out what's going on.
Yep.
So we've seen that. We've seen here's another good one. We got the old blue flag with the big yellow stripe right through it. And that's a flag that indicates the corner workers have noticed that you're driving along and they see a car coming behind you that they know is going to go faster than you are. So whether it's a race or a high-performance driving experience event, you see that flag. It's an advisory flag. It's not saying you must jump out of the way right now. It's just saying, hey, somebody's coming by, they're going to pass you. The old smart aleck thing you hear in all the drivers' meetings. When you see that, that means there's a race going on and you're not in it. But that is true. That's what it means to be somebody faster is going to come along and eat your lunch, and just be ready for it and don't be a jerk about it.
Yeah, somebody said we should paint our car in that color, but
That's not a terrible idea. I left kind of the worst flag for last. I mean, have you ever seen one of these, Bill? This black flag?
I've heard rumors about these things. One of our drivers collects them, like they're stamps, but I have gotten my share as well.
Yeah, I mean, I consider myself a fairly accomplished race car driver, but pretty much I got a flag at my last limits race, so I ran out of talent and was not gauging how far I needed to brake, and I put two wheels off the track and had to go in and talk about it. But yeah, it's a big deal for us in lemons. Black flags we can take on a whole different competition element, but they're out there for every kind of driving event. And typically, a black flag is going to just mean if it's pointed at you specifically, and you can tell there's nobody else around me, they're pointing the flag at me. It just means come on in. They need to talk to you about something. They're not going to put you in jail or anything. But it's a terrible feeling to get a black flag. But come on in. It's unavoidable. You got to deal with it.
It's not an attaboy.
You're right. It's not a high five, and it's something you're going to have to handle. So that's in my case. I've seen black flags for somebody. I was riding in a car with an instructor one time. We were getting a black flag, and it turned out that my passenger door wasn't completely shut. I didn't know this guy's car very well. I didn't have the knowledge to know that his door wasn't shut. But this guy was an instructor. He rode around with that flag, and finally I was like, "Hey man, I think that flag's for us." And he goes, "Oh yeah." We pulled in. So it could happen to anybody, and you got to be paying attention to it. I didn't leave that is the worst one. The second worst flag is the meatball flag, which is as a black flag with a big red or orange dot in the middle. So Black flag is the worst. Meatball can be your buddy because sometimes it's an advisory flag saying, hey, something's wrong with your car. Your muffler's dragging, you're leaking oil, your speakers are too loud or whatever. If you're a race bar, your speakers are too loud.
Yeah, I've heard about those guys.
But that's a flag that can really save you some time and money. If you get a meatball flag and realize you're running with an oil leak or something, you get in the pit in time to resolve it. Might save you an engine. It might save some of your buddies on track from getting in your fluids and having a dangerous incident too. So that's one that's not as doesn't make you feel as bad as the black flag, but it's also pretty bad for you.
Right. So these are typically done by the corner workers or at the start finish. Is there any way to make sure that you see them? Is there something you'd recommend for people to be doing?
I'll tell you. So we just briefly touched on the fact that these flags are in what we call flag stations or corner stations. A lot of times they're up in like a little gazebo. If the workers are lucky, sometimes it's sort of an open area. But I think for me, just sort of being a track driver for a long time and eventually starting to drive in racing, I've just been looking for the flags for a long time. So it's kind of second nature to me. But I'll tell you, one of the things that really helped me key into it was lemons racing, because when you're racing lemons, watching the flags just for the end of a caution period, just so I can jump and maybe catch the fact that the yellow disappeared faster than the few guys ahead of me. I do it all the time, but I'll come around a corner and just be watching the corner stations just because it's a competitive advantage. If I see that corner station pull the yellow before the 3 or 4 guys ahead of me notice it, I'm going to eat their lunch on the restart and gain some position. So I started getting more and more obsessed with watching flagging just out of a track position greediness standpoint, but it also bled over into the fact somehow I just am always keyed into what's happening at the flags. I think just a lot of time on track helps, and consciously making sure you can kind of list off all the flags, the stations, at least your first few times around a new track.
Right, and you definitely don't want to pass anybody under a yellow because that's going to lead to a black right after it. So you got to be careful.
That's one of the things they'll send you home for.
Yep.
Well, some of the things, some black flag incidents may be that they just want to talk to you after you had an off or something like that. But then at a track day or something like that, I think you can get away with it once or twice in a race and they'll yell at you. But I think if you start passing people under yellow at a track day, they will send you out the gate.
Is this true even if you're an entrepreneur and you know people?
Laser focused. That's not smiled upon.
No, not at all. All right. Thank you, sir.
Sure.